Lemon Amiga presents a Play Giant video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, welcome to another Lemon Amiga game guide review. This time we'll be taking a look at the 1992 classic Indy Heat, licensed from the Leyland Corporation. And some of you may remember the Leyland's first game, Ivan Stewart's Super Off-Road Racer. The first thing to do is input the player's name and then select the driver's icon from a large section of pictures built into the game to customize the experience to the driver. It doesn't really matter who you pick, but it does matter what upgrade you select and which route you take to upgrade the car. More on that later. The first course is Illinois, and the thing to do is to have an amazing start, which clearly I haven't managed to do. All you have to do on this first course is turbo your way around every corner and basically avoid everybody else without crashing. You don't have much fuel on these races, so as soon as you see the guy saying red car picked, you dive in there and that will give you a full turbo quarter, and it will refuel your tank as well. And that's basically all you have to do: turbo, 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 turbo until you run out. And then as soon as you hear red picked, on the next lap you can dive into the pit lane. The car will slow down to go into the pit lane, but you have to be more or less in line with the pit lane for it to stop, otherwise you go scooting straight past the thing, which leads to much frustration. There are many bugs in this game, as we shall cover later on, and that's the first course completed. After each section, the game will quickly load in a communication screen showing you how fast you did. But if you don't press fire, what you will see is the next screen, which is the shop heading onto the second level. So the second level, Indianapolis, we will play this again at the end of the game. And as you can see, it's important at this stage just to pile on the turbos, I find, and then you can simply turbo off the line and turbo all the way around the track using exactly the same skills as you did on the first track. And as soon as you see the pit lane red pit, then this is the time to dive straight into the pits, hopefully before the rest of the cars have come through, and then you can turbo out again before they've even set off. So already I'm a lap in front of those guys, and I can turbo around the track. These first two tracks are really easy. A simple triangle and a simple loop. Nothing particularly hard about those. You just have to remember to pit in when you need to, and then you can turbo out again. And there's only a short number of laps as well. It's only an 8-lap race, but that will soon change as we go through the season. And that brings us to another quick loading communication screen, and if you press the fire button straight away, that should take you to another screen showing you the points you've acquired so far and the miles per hour you gained on average over the last track, which you will need to know if you are going for a major high score. For the third track, I'm going to buy an engine and a miles per gallon upgrade, which means I've got a slightly larger fuel tank. And on this third course, it really does help to have just that little bit of extra fuel, because as you use turbos, the fuel will go down even quicker. So you really do need that extra half a lap advantage on this track. I'm already half a lap in front of everybody else, which is terrific, but you'll notice I'm having to come into the pits straight away and only just had enough fuel to get in there at that time, and I'm struggling to find the perfect place to land into the pits. As soon as you see the pit crew dive over the pit wall, then you've hit the right spot, but it might require a little jiggery pokery to get it just into the right spot straight away, which is kind of a bug in this game. Sometimes it can be quite frustrating, and the pit lane can be a pain for all kinds of reasons, as we shall see later on. So I'm already 3/4 way through the level, and I'm turboing my way around the track. If you come up behind slower drivers like this, it's better to avoid the turbo, so that you don't hit the back of those guys, because as soon as you bump, as soon as you hit the side of the track or whatever, you'll slow down, and that more or less ruins your chances of a super amazing average high score to take you through to the end of the game. It can be frustrating coming behind these slow guys, and it can also be frustrating like this, coming into the pits just to have a splash and dash fuel pit stop just to take you through the last lap. But because we did get that miles per gallon upgrade, it's not as bad as it could be on this course. And then we fast forward onto the fourth track, which is West Canada. And for this, I'm just going to buy some turbos and an engine. I'm going the quick route, the upgrade route on this section. And this course is really fast. There's a slow number of turns, which you might need to take your finger off the fire button, and this will instigate the brake. There really isn't any point buying extra brake upgrades or pit crew upgrades. The pit crew do a reasonably good job of topping up the fuel tank, so things like tyres as well, you really don't need to bother. So the main upgrades on Indy Heat basically is the miles per gallon, the acceleration, which I've bought for this track, and the turbos. It's always handy to have a number of turbos available, basically because if you get into any trouble or if you drop a lap, it means you can turbo through the rest of it. And using the average miles per hour, you can play the numbers. If you have a slow first lap, you can use the turbo to turbo through the second lap and increase your average. If you have a slow couple of corners, you can turbo through the rest. If you have a slow 2 laps, you can turbo over the next 2, and that will bring your average up. So it all depends. You can usually get away with a number of incidents without any major crises, as long as you maintain that turbo. And because I picked up the extra MPG on the previous course, I've now got half a lap advantage over those guys, which gives me just enough. You can see I ran out of fuel there, just enough to get into the pits. If you run out of fuel, you really do drag slowly back to the pit lane, which is infuriating if you've just put in a really fast lap, and you might have to turbo your way in there, which means you might scoot straight past the pit lane in full turbo. So in this one, I'm going to increase the miles per gallon, because on this track, it's quite a long track, and you will need that extra MPG to give you a good laps advantage over the rest of those guys. As you can see, the yellow car is making my life a bit difficult as well. Of all the computer players, I guess the yellow driver is the most competitive, and if you can beat the yellow car, that more or less gives you the race win. Because I picked up that MPG, it's forced the yellow into the pits, so I can go around for another lap, and that should mean bumping the blue car out of the way. That means I can be refueling while the other idiots are pottering around the track. Care must be taken to negotiate this really slow grey driver as well, which can be a bit of a pain if you come across someone who's not managed to pit in and they potter around the track at 10 miles an hour. But apart from that, you can concentrate on firing around the level. And I've run out of turbos already, so I've picked up enough speed to make sure I can get a decent lead over those guys. I'm on lap 7 and yellow's on lap 6, so as long as I've got a decent laps advantage over the yellow driver, I'm pretty happy with that. Remember to take the fire button off on that bottom right corner. As you saw, I crashed, and crashing, even though it doesn't really slow you down by a significant amount, every time you do crash it will alter the MPG. And I came into the pits early there because this is an 11 lap race and I was on lap 9, so I know that if I fill the tank up fully on lap 9, that will give me enough to survive the last 2 laps without having to pit in. So that's precisely what I'm doing. I'm on the final lap now and I should have just enough fuel, if I've timed this correctly, to ease over the line. Just about. And now track 6 is East Canada. For this I'm going to select an engine and a couple of turbos again. This one's slightly harder. There's a couple of tricky bends there, but the bottom section is very fast indeed. As you can see, I'm battling tooth and claw with the yellow driver who's managed to bump me into the pit lane, so I'm going to use the opportunity to fill my fuel tank to the brim, on the off chance that I can that extra laps advantage might just get me above the yellow driver. And here we come onto the 4th circuit, and I'm really getting bogged down by the slow drivers on this course, and I'm going to have to come in again to fuel in. Luckily the slow drivers are more or less tripping over each other, which can be a huge bonus when you're playing this game. And you see the yellow driver taking a shortcut, which is, you can take shortcuts on this level, but you will need a turbo to get yourself through that zone, because you do really go slow as soon as you leave the track. So this is more or less the lap finished. I'm going to splash and dash my way into the pits so I can survive the last 2 laps while the yellow driver there is in trouble, and I should just be able to make it now with that pit level, with that fuel level, just to get the last 2 tracks in. So part of the aspect of this game is timing pit stops so that you can come out in front of the other guys, before the other guys, or after the other guys, to give you a nice gap, a nice clear traffic, so that you can make your way through the field. And that's just as important on this track. I made a terrible start, but it's a really fast track, and with a couple of engine upgrades it shouldn't be hard to turbo through the bottom section and gain some speed. As you can see, the yellow player is not to be thwarted, and I actually went through the pit lane then to qualify for another lap, and I missed the pit stop there, which is frustrating, as I had to come back and get some more, and that's put me at the back of the pack. So timing of the pits is paramount on some of these levels. You can turbo through this bottom section, no problem, and you can qualify for the next lap by either driving into the pits or driving over the start-finish line. It doesn't really matter as long as you get through it. And coming into the pit lane again, can I make it? No, I can't. That's the advantage of getting a brakes upgrade. It means you can stop the car sooner. But I was keen to get out there before the blue player came along, because the blue player is the worst for knocking you out of the pits when you really don't need that kind of hassle. And sometimes if he knocks you out of the pits when you've barely gained any fuel, you have to go around again and get another top up. So I'm just preempting the top up there for the last lap. It's not a very It's not a very good course. I haven't done very well, but I've managed to qualify. The next course, Colorado. On this course, slightly different. I'm going to buy tyres because, as you will see, and a couple of turbos as well. As you can see, the Colorado course is made up of 90-degree bends. So if I can turbo off the line here and screech it around this top corner, the extra tyre upgrades should make sure that I stick to the road. And it can be a difficult course if you haven't got your speed, your MPG, or the tyres, so the upgrade route is definitely important by the time you get to this stage in the game. And I've only managed to get half a lap's lead of the guys, so I'm going to get in and out of the pits as soon as I can, and not really turboing behind these slow drivers, and then I don't have to crash into the back of them. And basically taking it easy. That top corner definitely requires a finger off under normal circumstances, and negotiating this yellow driver can be a bit of a pain. But bumping cars out of the pit lane, you can bump other cars out of the pit lane same as they can bump you out. So if you really wanted to, you could bump them all out of the pit lane, have them all running on petrol fumes for a few laps, and complete the level that way. That's what I call the pit crash method, where you basically crash into the pits and knock everybody out. There is also the turbo method, which involves turboing you around the entire track, and the upgrade method, which is to get yourself enough MPG and enough MPH to speed around the track faster than anybody else. So again, just get myself around that driver and complete another level. North California makes race number 9, and for this one I'm simply going for as many turbos and engine upgrades as possible. I've picked up the MPG. This course would ordinarily be pretty heavy on MPG, and unlike many of the courses, this one is quite tight. If you go off the course on any section, you will slow down, and those sand traps all the way around the circuit really do make a difference to your speed. As you can see, I managed to turbo my way around those top corners and crawl my way into the pits, or at least try to. But look at this, a quirk of the game, the yellow driver, if I can negotiate that, hasn't even successfully managed to pit. So he's lumbering away in the pit lane, getting absolutely nowhere, and meanwhile I'm bump and burning around the track, or at least I'm trying to get that advantage over the guy. So while everybody's into the pits, I'm going to try and burn my way around the level and try and get a half a lap's advantage over them. Slowly into the pits again, and let's try and get around before they do. So as I say, it's a pretty narrow course, and going off-road really doesn't do you any favours at all on this track. You can cut certain sections, and you can gain speed advantages by cutting through the pit lane to qualify for the lap rather than driving straight through, but that has its own negative aspects as well. If you crash into the side of the pit wall, you haven't really gained an advantage. So this is me heading around the penultimate lap, 2 laps in front of those guys, which is the way I like it. And unfortunately they're going to make my life a pain in the arse now trying to pass these guys, but I have qualified. I don't know why I went into the pits there. I went through in the wrong direction. It threw me in there by mistake. So when I didn't want to pit, it pitted me. When I did want to pit, it didn't. That's just the quirks of the game. So let's see. The average was only 235 miles per hour on that level, which isn't great if you are increasing that for the end of the game. For this one, I'm going to buy some extra MPG because, again, it's another long track, and it's quite a tricky track as well. There are many places where you can go off, and going off really isn't helpful on this track. It's slow. If you bump like I'm doing, it's a write-off. This section, if you take the wrong turn, you'll find yourself very slow. There is a shortcut section there on the top left section of the game, but if you do go across there, you'll find yourself very slow and you need to turbo across. The sand traps, again, are very difficult, and even getting into the pits is difficult if there are cars in the pit lane, so I booted the grey guy out of the way there just for my own speed. And again, I'm having to cut through the grass, which is not recommended because that really slows you down, and getting behind those other drivers as well. So Indy Heat can be fun in the first instance. It can also be infuriating if you crash into the sides, or if you take the wrong road, take the wrong route, or if you just manage to get stuck behind a slow driver. The graphics are nicely well drawn and very detailed and colourful, and these courses really are reminiscent of the actual tracks, which is a nice bonus. The feel of the game is pretty good, maybe not as smooth, maybe not as rough and ready as Super Off-Road Racer, but still very well put together. The sound is limited, but when you have a number of players all driving around together, and again, the game allows 2 joystick players, and the grey guy can be played on keyboard. So when you get 3 driving around and you get to hear pit left, pit right, pit yellow, it really does become mayhem. So thank God there is no music in the game. Although having said that, I do like the Super Off-Road Racer in-game music, and the first time I played this, I did like to play that in the background for some reminiscence. The white flag is flying there to show me that I'm on the penultimate lap. I've saved a couple of turbos just for that occasion, and straight through. And then it's the last course, it's Indy again. So for this, all you need to do is buy as many turbos as humanly possible. Just like the second track, all you have to do is turbo off the line, turbo across, turbo down, and turbo back again. Not very hard, very simple in fact. If you go on the grass on this section, it will slow you down, but if you drive well enough, you'll be able to avoid that. I'm coming into the pits early, basically because I ran out of turbos, not because I ran out of fuel. I have 40 turbos, so I'm keen to use every single one of them before the race is over, just to give me that advantage. And we'll see at the end of the race just how much that mattered. Again, I'm coming into the pits early for some more turbos. Turbo, turbo, turbo. That's all you have to do on this last track. So I was saying about this game, there's quite a few bugs in the game which spoil it, getting in and out of the pits, slow drivers, and having drivers bumping you around the course. Sometimes the courses are quirky, you can go through the barriers and end up on the other side of the track. Sometimes you can miss the pit stop altogether and have to come back. If you're behind slow drivers, they really do slow you down. As you can see, it can be annoying when you're trying to get the fastest lap possible. And that's the end of the game. So we will see the last few communication screens. This one says I'm basically first on that level, which we knew already. And then if you leave the game to roll through its credits, it comes up with the average speed of the last course, which in this case was 291 miles per hour, which isn't too bad. My highest average is over 300, maybe 310, something like that, on the last course, depending on the upgrade route, which is paramount. And look at this, the other 3 drivers are presented on the championship score table at the end of the game, but somehow I'm not on there. So that's yet another bug of this version of the game. Maybe the disc version's fine, but I'm using the WHD load version, which is a little on the ropey side. But thank you for tuning in to our play guide review of Indy Heat.